in the grand theater of history, where empires rise and fall like waves crashing on the shore. There are moments that stand out, figures that leave an indelible mark. One such moment, one such figure is the queen who defeated the greatest emperor in history. A tale more compelling than fiction, yet lesser known than it should be. Now, let's travel back in time, back to an age when the might of Rome seemed invincible, when the legions of Rome were a force of nature, feared and respected across the known world. At the helm of this colossus was Rome's greatest emperor, Augustus, a man who shaped a dynasty, a ruler whose ambitions knew no bounds. His empire stretched from the Atlantic shores to the Arabian Sea, and his legions were poised to march even further. But little did he know that his path to greatness would collide with the indomitable spirit of a queen, Boudica. Her story is one of resilience, resistance, and raw courage. Imagine, if you will, a world teetering on the brink of change. A world where the mighty Roman Empire loomed large, casting long shadows across the horizon. Amidst this looming darkness, there she was, Boudica, a warrior queen of the Iceni tribe in Britain, a land that Rome had set its greedy eyes on. Now, Rome was no stranger to conquest, but what it encountered in Boudica was something it had not bargained for. When Rome sought to bend the Britons to its will, it was met with fierce resistance, and at the center of this resistance stood Boudica, a woman whose spirit was forged in the fires of adversity. The story goes that Rome had underestimated her, that they had seen a mere tribal queen, where in reality they faced a force of nature. The clash between Rome and Boudica was not merely a battle of arms, it was a clash of ideologies, a struggle for identity, a defiant roar against the machine of oppression. Rome, with its legions of soldiers, its advanced tactics, and its seemingly invincible might. And Boadicea, with her tribal warriors, her knowledge of the land, and the burning desire for freedom. What followed was a rebellion that shook the very foundations of Rome. The chronicles tell of a leader who rallied her people, who turned fear into courage, who transformed a tribe on the brink of subjugation into a force that gave Rome a bloody nose. In the annals of history, there are few accounts of Rome being driven back, of its legions suffering defeat on such a scale. But under Boudica's leadership, it happened. The Romans, invincible in their own eyes, were made to feel vulnerable, their might questioned. Yet, despite the victories, the end was tragic. Rome, wounded but not broken, retaliated. The siege of Camulodunum, the burning of London, and the brutal suppression of the revolt were grim chapters in the story. And as for Boudica, the warrior queen, the chronicles tell of her vanishing, perhaps into Roman captivity, perhaps into the mists of time, taking with her the hopes of a free Britain and the nightmare of Rome. Now, history has taught us anything, it's that it is written by the victors. Rome's victory over Boudica may have been complete, but her story, her spirit of resistance, it lived on in the hearts of the Britons. Passed down through generations, a testament to courage in the face of overwhelming odds. And so, as we delve into the chronicles, it's essential to remember that Rome's triumph wasn't just a military victory. It was a psychological one, too. The Britons, including the Iceni tribe, were made to understand that resistance was futile, that Rome's power was absolute. This led to a lasting impact on the psyche of the region, a chilling reminder of the cost of defiance. However, the story of Boudica stands as a beacon of hope, a reminder that even in the darkest times, one person's courage can ignite a flame of rebellion, a flame that Rome, for all its might, could not snuff out. So here's to you, Boudica, warrior queen, whose bravery echoed through the ages. Your story may have ended in tragedy, but your spirit lives on in the hearts of those who dare to dream of freedom and fight for a better tomorrow. Welcome to my channel. Before we begin, take a moment to subscribe. If you enjoy exploring the darker corners of history, you won't want to miss what comes next. History often celebrates kings, emperors, and generals. Their names are etched into monuments, their victories carved into stone, their defeats retold in endless chronicles. But hidden in the shadows of those stories lies another truth. Sometimes the fate of empires rests not in the hands of men, but in the hands of women. Women who were underestimated, silenced, and buried in the footnotes of history, but whose power shaped the destiny of nations. This is the story of a forgotten empress, a woman who stepped into a crumbling empire and with unmatched cunning forced the world to remember her name. Her rise began in obscurity. Born into a court poisoned by intrigue, she learned early that survival meant silence. She watched as nobles clawed at each other for favor, as generals turned victories into claims for power, and as the throne itself became a battlefield. In that chaos, she remained quiet, her intelligence disguised as obedience. To the men around her, she was harmless, not a figure meant to smile, nod, and fade into the background. But behind her silence, she listened. She learned. She mapped the ambitions of every man in the room. And when the moment came, she struck with precision that would echo for generations. Her husband, the emperor, was powerful in name, but weak in rule. He trusted too easily, listened too little, and ignored the rising storms around him. Enemies gathered at the borders. Rivals whispered in the palace halls. And the people, starving and restless, no longer feared the crown. The empire stood on the edge of collapse. It was then that the empress stepped forward. At first, she played the role of loyal consort, speaking softly, offering counsel only when asked. But each suggestion she gave planted seeds. Each whisper reshaped the emperor's decisions. And soon, it was not he who ruled, but she. Her methods were not of the battlefield, but of the mind. She saw corruption not as an obstacle, but as a tool. She bent it to her will, placing allies where enemies once stood, rewarding loyalty with unimaginable riches, and punishing betrayal with silence so terrifying that no one dared to cross her twice. The generals mocked her, the nobles dismissed her. But when rebellions erupted, it was she who crushed them with ruthless efficiency. When foreign armies invaded, it was her strategies that saved the capital. Slowly, the empire began to realize that their survival depended not on the emperor, but on the woman standing at his side. And then came the moment that defined her reign. A rival empire, vast, rich, and hungry, believed the throne too weak to resist. They launched an invasion, confident that one strike would bring centuries of history to an end. The emperor panicked, his advisors fled, but the empress remained. She gathered what forces remained loyal, rallied the people with speeches that burned into their memory, and devised a plan that turned desperation into victory. When the dust cleared, the rival army was broken, their ambitions crushed. The empire stood not because of the emperor, but because of the woman standing at his side. And then her rule was unquestioned. The emperor, humiliated by his own weakness, became little more than a figurehead. The nobles who once dismissed her now bowed in fear. And the people, whether they loved her or hated her, recognized that she was the reason they still had a nation. But power always demands a price. Her reign was marked by suspicion, betrayal, and blood. Friends turned to enemies. Family became rivals. And the empress, once underestimated, became infamous for her merciless grip on the throne. She trusted no one. She forgave nothing. And in her relentless pursuit of survival, she transformed from savior into tyrant. The chronicles record her reign in whispers. Some call her brilliant, others called her monstrous. Yet all agree on one thing: she was unstoppable. Her enemies fell, her rivals vanished, and her empire, though scarred, endured. What makes her story haunting is not just the power she wielded, but the legacy she left behind. The emperor she overshadowed is remembered as weak. His name fades in the annals of history, a footnote at best. But her shadow lingers, stretching across the centuries, forcing us to ask a question few dare confront. What is the true cost of power? Was she ruthless or simply necessary? Did she save the empire, merely delay its inevitable collapse? Was she a tyrant or the only ruler strong enough to hold the crumbling world together? Perhaps the answer lies not in the judgment of history, but in the silence of those who lived under her rule. Silence, after all, can mean fear, but it can also mean survival. As you listen to her story, remember this: power does not always roar. Sometimes it whispers, and sometimes the whispers outlast the empires they shaped. If you found yourself captivated by this tale, remember to subscribe. There are more stories hidden in the shadows of history, stories as dark, as ruthless, and as unforgettable as this one. Before we begin, if you enjoy walking into the darker corners of history, take a moment to subscribe. These are not stories of light. They are shadows carried across centuries, and they wait for those brave enough to listen. In the grand tapestry of history, where countless monarchs have graced the pages of our collective memory, few have done so with the chilling impact of the woman known simply as the Black Queen. Now, shrouded in mystery and whispered rumors, her story serves as a haunting reminder that the pursuit of power knows no bounds, and that the thirst for control can turn even the most enchanting of tales into a nightmare. Welcome to our channel, where today we unravel the enigmatic life of the woman who captured hearts and instilled fear as the Black Queen. Our journey takes us back to a time when kingdoms rose and fell like the tides of the sea. In the heart of a realm where ambition burned brighter than the sun, there lived a woman destined for greatness, born into a world of privilege. She possessed beauty that could launch 1,000 ships and a cunning mind that could outwit the wisest of sages. Yet it was her insatiable thirst for power that set her apart. It propelled her to become the monarch who ruled not just over a kingdom, but over the hearts and minds of men. Her rise to the throne was nothing short of a fairy tale, a testament to her strategic brilliance and unwavering ambition. But it was in the chambers of her heart that the shadows first began to stir. For while her public persona radiated charm and grace, there lurked a darkness that yearned for absolute control. As her influence grew, so did the web of intrigue and deception. Her closest allies became the most formidable threats, and her kindness turned into calculated manipulation. She played the game of politics with unmatched skill, sacrificing love, honor, and even her soul at the altar of her unquenchable thirst for power. And yet, despite the whispers that followed her like a persistent wind, she remained unfazed, for she believed that true power lay in maintaining an image, in crafting a narrative that silenced the doubters and solidified her place as the undisputed ruler of her domain. But it was her infamous black attire that truly set her apart, a symbol of both elegance and mystery. Beneath the surface, however, this choice of clothing hinted at the darkness that resided within her soul. Each black garment a shield, protecting her from the prying eyes of her subjects and concealing the turmoil that raged within. As her reign progressed, the lines between good and evil blurred, leaving us to question the very nature of power and the lengths to which one woman's ambition would lead. Did she embrace her darker impulses, reveling in the fear she instilled in those around her? Or was she a tragic figure, forever trapped in a struggle to maintain the facade of her perfect rule? The enigma of the Black Queen continues to captivate us, challenging us to confront the complexities of human nature and the intoxicating allure of absolute control. As we ponder these questions, we are reminded of the timeless wisdom that true power lies not in dominance, but in the hearts and minds of those we lead. Thank you for joining us today on this journey through the shadows of history. If you find yourself intrigued by tales of powerful women who dared to defy the boundaries of their time, we invite you to stay tuned for more captivating stories. Together, let's continue exploring the annals of history and uncovering the fascinating narratives that have shaped our world, And if you wish to support our channel in our pursuit of bringing these captivating stories to life, your support means the world to us. As always, from the depths of history, I bid you farewell until next time when we delve once again into the chronicles of the past. Have you ever wondered about the widows of war, the women left behind when the men go to fight? What were their lives like? How did they cope with the absence of their loved ones? Did they remarry? Well, today we're going to talk about the life of one of these widows, but her story is a bit different. This is the story of the Widow Queen. The year is 1482, and the place is Lithuania. The Grand Duke died, leaving behind a pregnant queen and a kingdom teetering on the edge of war. The nobles weren't interested in a baby as their ruler. They wanted someone strong, someone who could lead them to victory against their enemies, the Teutonic Order. When the Grand Duchess Jadwiga took the throne, they scoffed. This woman, barely older than a child herself, was deemed too fragile to rule. The nobles had another candidate in mind, a man they considered strong enough to lead them, one of their own. But Jadwiga had something they didn't expect, a will of iron forged in the fires of ambition and grief. The story started a decade earlier. In 1471, Casimir, the last of the Piast dynasty, died, leaving his 8-year-old nephew as his heir. The boy was placed under the care of his uncle, Grand Duke of Lithuania, and his aunt, Grand Duchess Jadwiga. But this royal sibling rivalry soon turned bloody. When Casimir died, his widow, Sophia, fled to the Teutonic Order for safety, sparking a succession crisis. The Lithuanians nominated Casimir's young son, while the ambitious Queen Sophia backed her brother-in-law. The boy, too young to rule, was placed under the guardianship of his aunt, Jadwiga. In effect, Lithuania had a queen regnant, while Jadwiga, de facto, held the reins of power, ruling as the Grand Duchess. The rest of Europe applauded this arrangement, but not the Teutonic Order. They saw a chance to expand their territory. So, the northern lands of the Teutonic Order rose in arms, marching toward the Lithuanian border. The young queen regent needed help, and she knew exactly where to find it. She called upon Grand Duchess Jadwiga. Together, they led their armies into battle. They won, securing Lithuania's borders. Peace returned to the kingdom, and so did the queen regent, expecting gratitude from her people. Instead, she got disloyalty, and the Grand Duchess stepped down. The same nobles who had celebrated her victory plotted against her, stripping her of power and crowning her rival as the Grand Duke. Overnight, the hero became the villain. But Jadwiga was not the type to accept defeat. Her husband was dead, her power was gone, and her child was next in line to the throne. She had nothing left to lose. While her rivals basked in their apparent victory, Jadwiga honed her skills in secret. She observed the kingdom's politics, learning the intricate game of alliances and rivalries. She reached out to the Queen Mother, forming a bond that would become a cornerstone of her future reign. And when the time was right, she made her move. With the support of the Queen Mother and a few loyal allies, Jadwiga ascended to the throne. Her opponents watched, certain that this new queen would be a figurehead, a puppet dancing according to their tune. But they had misjudged her. Not only did she not play the role of the weak queen, she played the game better than anyone else. Jadwiga's rise was a surprise to everyone, including herself. She never intended to become queen. Her life revolved around family, faith, and art. But when duty called, she answered. However, her journey from dethroned monarch to revered leader was fraught with challenges. Doubts plagued her, questions echoing in her heart. Was she strong enough? Could she lead her people to prosperity after so much upheaval? But as the years passed, her actions provided the answers. She embraced her role wholeheartedly. With each decision, she solidified her position not only as a ruler, but as a beacon of strength and hope. Under her guidance, Lithuania flourished. Trade routes hummed with activity. Agricultural reforms boosted food production. And a renewed sense of national identity took root. Moreover, she wisely chose to marry an Austrian archduke, securing an important alliance that bolstered Lithuania's position on the European stage. But the path to greatness is rarely smooth. Her brother-in-law, the man who had usurped the throne from her, remained a thorn in her side. He plotted, he schemed, always seeking to undermine her authority. Despite the constant threat, Yagalo forged ahead. She established a system of elected officials, modernized the army, and introduced legal reforms that emphasized equality before the law. Through it all, the detractors kept a close watch, waiting for her to falter. Yet, falter she did not. Jagiellonka proved them wrong. She became the longest reigning monarch in the history of Lithuania, leaving an indelible mark on the nation. Her legacy was secure, etched not only in stone, but in the hearts of her people. She went from being underestimated and disrespected to being known as the Great, a title that reverberates across history. Her story is a potent reminder that grief and ambition can be a dangerous mix. When personal tragedy fuels ambition, the results can be both fascinating and frightening. Tish, let me know what you think. Also, if you want to know more about similar topics, check out the recommended videos that you see on your screen right now. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time. You know, I used to think a lot of leaders got betrayed because they trusted too much, because they were weak, because they weren't careful. But maybe it's not that simple. Maybe betrayal isn't just a weakness. Maybe it's a tool, a weapon, and you can actually master it. Say if you played a game where your goal was to survive and thrive, not just get ahead, but stay ahead. It's a brutal game and the rules keep changing. Can you honestly say that loyalty would help you? That being true to others would make you stronger? Think about it. Loyalty means nothing if the other person has 2 left feet, right? You might be loyal to someone who's going to mess up again and again and again, dragging you down, costing you opportunities. Loyalty doesn't help you beat people who have no problem backstabbing you, and I've seen it happen a lot. So what if, instead of always being loyal, you were prepared for betrayal? What if you saw treachery not as a weakness, but as a weapon? Welcome to my channel. Today, we're talking about the one and only Queen Isabella, the first of Castile and Leon. You may have heard of her because of this famous painting by a famous artist. Yep, that one. But before we dive into that, I need you to do 3 things. Number 1, subscribe so you never miss out on these amazing stories. No. 2, like this video if you're enjoying yourself, okay? And no. 3, tell me in the comments who your favorite female historical figure is, okay? Let's see how many names I can recognize. Isabella took the throne when she was barely 18 years old. Honestly, she didn't want to be queen. All she wanted was to live a quiet life as a nun. But life had other plans for her. You see, her brother, Alfonso, died without an heir, so she inherited the crown. But she wasn't alone. See, she had this cousin, Juan, and he also had a claim to the throne. And he wasn't above using underhanded tactics to grab power. Remember when I said that the queen saw betrayal as a weapon? Well, this is where that story started. Juan tried to bribe 3 powerful nobles to kidnap her and force her to abdicate. But you know what? These nobles weren't loyal to him either. They switched sides and helped her seize 2 of his castles. And then she kicked him out of the kingdom. Ouch. I mean, talk about getting played. This wasn't exactly what she wanted, but she rolled with the punches. I mean, she had to consolidate her power somehow, right? So she went to war, fought battles, and secured her hold on the throne. But she also did something else. She observed everything around her, every single thing. She memorized who was allied with whom, who had beef with whom, who was plotting what, all of it. 10. And then the perfect opportunity for payback came along. Juan went to France to beg for troops to take back the kingdom. Okay, and you won't believe this, but French King Charles V said yes. Aki agreed to help Juan, probably because Juan promised him a big slice of Spain if he won. Anyway, Queen Isabella let them plan their little campaign. She watched them assemble their army and get ready to march. Then she did something really clever. She sent her ambassadors to France and told King Charles that, hey, maybe you don't trust this guy Juan, because he's totally up to no good. And guess what? She dropped some hints that Juan had actually asked the French king for money before, but backed out of the deal at the last minute. Talk about throwing shade. Now, King Charles was not a fool. He realized he had been played. He actually sent his ambassadors to spy on Juan, and they reported back that, yup, this guy was a fraud. Talk about awkward. So the French king didn't give him any troops. Instead, he just told him to buzz off. Without French help, Juan's plan was doomed. He came back to Spain with an even smaller army, and Isabella crushed him. She took over his lands and kicked him out of the kingdom for good. Nice move, Queen Bee. From then on, everyone at court watched their step because they knew she was watching them like a hawk. They couldn't trust anyone, not even each other. Isabella even had one of her advisors put to death after she caught him whispering sweet nothings to one of her ladies in waiting. I know, right? So her court was this toxic place where nobody was safe, but at least she was safe. She built this elaborate system of spies and informants who kept tabs on everyone, and it worked. She ruled for almost 40 years, which was kind of a long time ago. She basically made Spain what it is today. It's not bad for a queen who just wanted to be a nun. So yeah, her story proves that you don't always have to be loyal to survive. Sometimes you have to be smarter. Okay? Thanks. Bye.